What's up, everyone? All right, so we are here to discuss Bitcoin. I just got off of Twitter where a fan of mine, he said, was debating me and said I was ignorant. His logic was that Bitcoin is that the government cannot confiscate Bitcoin. And I said to him, so your logic is that the only reason the government would confiscate your Bitcoin is if you're doing something illegal with it. So your logic is if you choose to do something illegal, sex trafficking, drugs, prostitution, whatever it is, but you don't want to get your money confiscated, that's why you should have Bitcoin. And that is why Bitcoin is so awesome. That was literally what he said. I mean, I'm sitting there going like, but why would anybody confiscate it unless you're just like he said about real estate. He goes, well, real estate can be confiscated by the government. Well, so can Bitcoin. Yes, they need their private, they need that key. And that key is very important. I get that. And if they don't have the key, they can't get the Bitcoin as of right now. Great. So you're saying it's awesome that you're sitting in jail and your Bitcoin is somewhere else?
Don't
That's
you think
the
they'll
logic?
waterboard you to get your...
I mean, whatever it is, like this is the logic being used, and I was called ignorant. I'm like, wait a second. I don't get this. I didn't short Bitcoin. I did short the market though. Paul, I do have a secret Bitcoin account. I see not just the car company Tesla has proved you. Yeah, I don't think so, Rob. If you really truly believe, I assume you're joking because of that smiley face. But yeah, I mean, Tesla's on a rip too. Bitcoin's on a rip. Guys, I mean, I just look at this going, it's so funny that people say you don't understand Bitcoin. And I jokingly say, you're right, I don't understand Bitcoin. But I'm saying that to say, that's like me saying you don't understand gravity. And if you really don't understand gravity, I just don't get the logic behind that. Like, you don't understand investing if you believe that Bitcoin is an investment. Every single argument about Bitcoin has nothing to do with any sort of price. Every single argument says, this is the, and I said, fine, Bitcoin, why not 10 million for Bitcoin? Exactly. Why not 20 million? Exactly. Why not 30? Why not infinite number? That is literally the definition of a bubble. When people think no price is too high. That's literally what a bubble is. That's so awesome. I wonder how many Bitcoins prices will rise when Paul speaks. Yeah, probably a ton. Guys, I have no problem. I've made this video. I even said to people, guys, I'm going on the record here. I have no problem putting myself to this test. Well, I can't ignore it. I got to read this. Bitcoin's values, there's a finite amount, and everybody says that there's a finite amount. Okay, as of right now. You know what's funny? It reminds me of when people used to say Macs cannot be crashed. They can't crash. And then guess what a bunch of programmers did? They crashed Macs. The uncrashable computer was finally crashed. Guys, you saw there's talk I just heard about this Google chip that can do math insanely fast. You're telling me they're not going to be able to crack code? Guys, come on. If you don't understand they're going to be able to crack the code, then you are ignorant. They will eventually be able to crack it. It's just technology. Anything can be done to technology. Imagine the things that have already been done. Listen, by the way, Barr, good question. Trump being in favor of Bitcoin, purely politics. Trump has no, by the way, big deal. I don't respect Trump in terms of his investment acumen. I always tell people, find me one investor that I respect that has Bitcoin. And I say investor, like a true, like literally investor, not like Peter Thiel, who I really like a lot. He was big on Bitcoin, but he sold all of it. And I don't know if he rebought back in, but he does it based on, he's in the tech world, and I get why he's into that. But Michael Saylor, he's not an investor. He's not an investor. People say, what's his name? The Leg Mason guy. And I always laugh. I'm like, everybody thinks he's a value investor. He's not a value investor. The one thing in Bitcoin is that's not much different than anything. Look what happens to countries like Venezuela, Argentina. Currency only has value because... Oh, I don't disagree, Rob. Currencies are speculative. They're backed by the governments behind them. And if the governments are shit behind them, like Venezuela, like Argentina is getting better, like El Salvador, of course the currencies are going to be devalued. Look at the Zimbabwe dollars. I literally have trillions of Zimbabwe dollars. They're worth pennies. Why? Because there was no backing by the government. We're talking about the U.S. government here. The U.S. government. Okay, great. There's is Hans just trolling? Oh yeah, that's what I meant, Dalton. Bill Miller. Bill Miller. And by the way, to Mr. Victor's comment, could I be wrong on Bitcoin? Absolutely, I could be wrong. But what I'm trying to do is teach you guys about intrinsic value. And I don't care what anybody says. There is no intrinsic value to Bitcoin. What's the intrinsic value to the US dollar? I don't know. I don't think there is intrinsic value. By the way, verified by the fact that I don't own dollars, like in terms of his investment. What's the intrinsic value to gold? I don't know. That's why I don't own gold directly. I'm trying to show you that I'm being consistent in how I perceive this. Principle-driven investing is all about saying we're not speculators, we're investors. Doesn't mean you shouldn't speculate. Listen, I believe in day trading. There's no intrinsic value in day trading, but I believe in it. Why? Because I've seen a process that can work. The problem with Bitcoin is when I see who's backing it and who's excited about it, I go, man, this screams bubble. And I look at it going, what kind of world we live in where the US government says, F the dollar, we're going to Bitcoin. It could happen. That's the thing. People, when they watch my videos, they also don't hear the things that they don't want to hear. When I sit there and say, I could very easily be wrong on Bitcoin. Absolutely. But guess what? I've said thousands of times, Bitcoin in its current, cryptocurrency in its current state does not succeed. And guess what? It has changed tremendously from its original state. Its original state was not being completely untraceable. And now, as long as you have key things like that too, cryptocurrency in general is traceable. Look at Hatua girl. She's getting in trouble now because they traced the transactions on her crypto transactions. Yes, it's not Bitcoin. I get that. But I look at this saying, I could be wrong on this, but what I'm not wrong on is the process. The process is not incorrect. My biggest ever mistakes were speculative mistakes, and that was shorting NVIDIA and shorting the market. Absolutely. Not investing. And I learned that lesson the hard way. Great, not the hard way. Whatever it is. I'm fine with that. But it's funny because then we look at my investments and we look at the companies that I sat there 3 years ago and said junk, 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 and we forget about those. I follow that right process. Rob, and by the way, you're right. There are exceptions, and I do. How do I'm really trying to accentuate. Like, I don't know what the future holds. If the U.S. government came out and said, "Listen, we're backing Bitcoin," and they are buying Bitcoin, but we're backing it. It's becoming our official cryptocurrency, and you can pay taxes with it, things like that. I think that actually hurts Bitcoin because suddenly now you have an attached value to Bitcoin. And something tells me it's not going to be as infinite as everybody thinks. I wish that people saw the history of bubbles. If you saw the history of bubbles, you'd see, here's what I'm saying, you don't understand that. If you saw the history of bubbles and when bubbles occur, who's getting excited about things? It's the people who are getting excited about Bitcoin now. It's just hard. And I look at this going, if you, it's funny, people say it's a store of value. A store of value, an asset that goes up and down. Like I've always heard, it's a hedge against inflation. Guys, inflation's down and Bitcoin's up a lot. If it was a hedge, if inflation was up, Bitcoin would be up. If inflation was down, Bitcoin would be down. It'd go in line with it, kind of in a way, in that kind of regard. Looks like real estate. Real estate's a hedge against inflation. If inflation's up, real estate values go up with it to counteract the inflation. Now, I look at this. And there are other hedges where they just move a complete opposite. I look at this saying, listen, if you want to own Bitcoin, awesome, more power to you. But if you want to justify it in your head because it's going to change, it could change the world. The internet changed the world. And 99% of internet companies went to zero. In fact, from the late 90s until now, the only internet company I know that's still around, I think, is Amazon. That's like literally viable and a good company. Yeah, I mean, and I say internet company, not tech company, internet company. Amazon the only one. I mean, can somebody please tell me? There might be something else. Let's see here. At what price will not be a bubble anymore? Gianni, great question. I don't understand how to value any sort of currency, any sort of. Listen, last year, a copy of the Constitution went for sale. It was going to be announced we're going to go for sale. I went to my brother's office. I said, Mikey, let's go make a play for this. We didn't. But I sat there. That's a purely speculative play. And I don't know what the right price for it is. What I did say was, I look at this going, you literally cannot make more original Constitution. There was like 7 copies of the or something like that, 7 copies of the Constitution from 1776 or whatever it was. Maybe it's later. I don't remember exact date. I'm looking at going, you literally cannot make any more. It cannot be made because it's the paper, all these things, the ink, all that stuff. So I have art. I own watches. Watches are complete, but I don't buy these for investment. And these have other uses besides just being a watch. It's an accessory. It's like art to me. It's like, and art, same thing. I like art. But when I buy art, I buy it because I think it's beautiful. I want it to sit on my wall. Not because I'm trying to buy it to say this thing is an investment to go up. My wife has purses, and I love when people say like, oh, Paul, these purses are high. I'm like, guys, you know how much Rolexes have fallen in value? It's just unbelievable to me. Oh, by the way, okay, a question I posed in the general chat yesterday. What makes an investment? Great question, JJ. It has been a while since I've seen you. So this is one of the principle-driven investor ideas that we talk about. An investment to me, and a lot of I read the intelligent investor definition of investment. I don't like it because I don't look at it going, no. To me, an investment high level is, if the market went away for it tomorrow, do I still have an asset that can generate me something? So like a stock, you might sit there and say, well, Paul, a stock doesn't generate you something. Yes, it does. Because when you buy a stock, you're buying a piece of a business. And if that business's cash flow builds up, the bank account builds up, they can still pay dividends even though the market's gone for trading the company. And as the cash flow grows and grows and grows, and as the earnings and revenue grow, the value of that goes away. The prime example is when you buy your neighbor's mechanic shop. There's no immediate market to sell your shares right then and there. Back in the day, by the way, if you want to buy stock, you have to find people who own the stock and say, hey, can I buy your stock? No different than calling your neighbor and saying, hey, I see you have a piece of this. You own this mechanic shop. Can I be a partner with you? So to me, an investment is something that you pay a reasonable price for that gives you an adequate return on your capital. And if the market goes away for it tomorrow, you're still able to see an increase in intrinsic value because of fundamentals. That might sound too generic, but it's very consistent with what I say. Like, here's a guy who wanted to buy a piece of the Constitution. There was 5 years ago, Tim was with me. Remember when we went to Florida? I wanted to buy the Bible.
Man, that bookstore was awesome.
That bookstore was incredible.
Yeah.
I was at Raptus Rare Books on Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, and there was a rare Bible from 1508 or something. And I was sitting there, and Tim's very religious, Mary's very religious, Lisa's not. And I'm sitting there going like, and I am not at all. And I'm looking at going, I'm a very spiritual guy, not a religious guy. I go, I want this Bible. And Lisa's like, you can't have it. You don't deserve it because you don't believe in this. I'm like, but it's a piece of history to me. And guess what? The Bible price was $150,000, right? You know what it sells for now? It's like $350,000, $400,000 for that same Bible. Oh yeah, it's absurd. And there's only there's not many of them in the world. But the whole point was, when I was buying that, I wasn't sitting there saying, I was sitting there saying, like, listen, it's speculative, but it's cool, it's rare, and you can't make any more 1508 created Bibles or whatever it was with this error in it. That was the he-she Bible. It was supposed to be she, but it said he instead, and it was an error, so they reprinted it. Yeah, listen, I feel the same way. I did not blow up my portfolio, but welcome to our live stream. I'm glad I own your brain. Yeah, you're a grifter. Okay, sounds good. I'm not buying Bitcoin. That's correct. Guys, I'd like to welcome Strongman Personal Finance, the guy who was a fan of our channel, loved us, and then we rebuffed him, so he went against us. So welcome to the channel, guys. Please answer a question, real estate stock. Well, we're here to talk about Bitcoin, Mick. All stocks trade on forward. I don't think all stocks trade on the forward earnings at all. I don't think all stocks trade on the forward earnings. Some stocks, because remember, forward earnings are still unknown. And this is what I've been talking about with Bitcoin. There's still speculation involved there. What I'm sitting there saying is, when you sit there and I want everybody here to realize that your money you work very hard for. And it is hard to see a lot of people out there making a lot of money very easily. It's very difficult. it's very difficult to sit there on the sidelines and saying, what are they getting? One of the best investors I know, a guy who for 15 years outperformed by 6% a year. 6% a year for 15 years is now down 20% in the last 4 years. Not down 20% in the last 4 years, and the market's up like basically triple, right? And he's one of the best investors I know. Do you think it's frustrating for him? Of course it's frustrating for him. Dude, I have money invested with him. Have I pulled it? Absolutely not, because his process works. And it's tough to be out there and see all these kids out there and all these people out there just buying Bitcoin and buying all these stocks. And guys, remember one thing. The one thing I'll say about NVIDIA, legitimate company. It's been a legitimate company for 30 years now. It's an incredible company. Incredible. A lot of these companies are. By the way, I started a new position today.
No kidding.
I started a new position today. It happened suddenly. I started a new position on a stock today. So I want everybody to see, like, I own now 26 stocks or ETFs. 26. So when I hear people say, like, oh, you think everything's a bubble? No, I don't. I own 26 companies right now. I own 24 companies and 2 ETFs. I believe that's what I'm at right now. Hey, it's not just the hate on the market. Is the market overpriced? Absolutely. Every reliable metric in history has shown that. And just like when Kathy Wood's stock ARK Investments was at 160, everybody said, Paul, you don't get it. She has a hedge fund, you don't. And then it got to 30. I'm like, oh, who didn't get it now? But guess what? One of the principle-driven investing ideas we have is that we don't look at short-term price movements to determine if we're right or wrong. Yes, Bitcoin is up a ton lately. Does that mean I'm wrong? Maybe. It's up a ton over history. Does that mean I'm wrong? Maybe. But bubbles can last for a very, very long time. I don't know when it's going to burst, or maybe it doesn't ever burst. Go ahead.
So we should just ask everybody to give their best case. If you own Bitcoin in the chat, give Paul your best case and let's debate it.
Well, I don't know. So here's the deal. I'm trying to wrap my head around like because then people say, Paul, you got to talk to people who are experts in Bitcoin. Do you know every single person I know who owns Bitcoin, you know what they tell me? I'm an expert. I get it. That's why I bought it. It's like, is it really possible that every single person, just like I don't believe that every single person who owns Microsoft stock gets Microsoft stock. I know lots of people who own, I had a conversation with somebody worth several $100 million back in March. He owned NVIDIA stock. You know what he said to me? I don't even know what they do. I was like, oh, okay. And he was all excited about it. This is a guy worth hundreds of millions of dollars, had no idea what they did. I'm like, have you not read a Wall Street Journal in the last 2 years? How do you not know what they do? So I look at this saying, I really want us to focus on what is when you buy something for investment, what are you looking for? Are you just looking to follow something that's gone up like this? And what happens when it goes like this? Which invariably everything will at some point. There's never been a stock that's ever gone up forever. Ever. Look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA was at $10 a share in split adjusted, but it had been at $31 a share, went down to 10. Are you telling me that you were wrong on NVIDIA? No, NVIDIA is every bit of that $300 a share it was before, which is $31 a share now. But would you have seen that big surge in AI? That's the question. That process is hard to find. You might have gotten lucky and owned NVIDIA, said, listen, this is a great company, and great companies have great things that happen to them. I started a position today. Should I announce it? Remember, guys, do not buy anything that anybody on the internet owns. I started a position today on Adobe. It fell to 450, and I sold puts at 425. Not a big position, but guys, the other thing is, can I tell you something? My stock portfolio, the stocks I own, is up huge. Huge. Do I brag about that? No, because it's too short of a time period. I get messages all the time, Paul, I'm up 37% this year versus 27 because of your process. You know what I say back? No, it's not because of me. It's because of you. I'm teaching what makes sense to me. I'm teaching that. And by the way, to everybody out there who says, whenever somebody like hates on me, I say to them, great, let's do a 10-year competition for any amount of money you want. Guess how many people are taking me up on it? Tim, any idea? 0.
Yeah.
0.
I don't know. I don't watch other channels either.
Well, no. Remember Jeremy from Financial Education?
Oh, yeah.
I challenged him. He said no.
Fake money, I think he wanted to do.
Yeah, you want to do fake money. I'm like, no. I want real money. Because it's easy to sit there and do whatever you want, YOLO on fake money. I'm talking about real money. I want real money in your account.
think people would paper trade you or whatever.
Of course, more power to them. But you can't sit there and try to argue with me when I'm the guy consistently saying, yeah, I've made mistakes, but my mistakes weren't investment mistakes, and the stocks I own are doing quite well. And guess what? I don't care. I literally do not care. Zero care. Now, back to Bitcoin. Oh, Gene, so I can understand that Adobe that can be perceived as too expensive. I do get that. And I said I wasn't going to talk. I think the growth potential and the gross margin and the ROIC justifies a very nice premium on Adobe. I don't blame you for thinking that, though. I think it's selling for like 30 times free cash flow currently, or 27, something absurd. And you might sit there and say, that's too much. It's like, man, but they can really grow their revenue and profit amazingly well. They've done a great job converting to a subscription-based business, and they're a market leader in what they do. I think that's a position where I think there's a long-term good play. And if it falls further, I hope it goes to 200, because my cost basis will probably go down to 320 or something like that. And I'd love that. My new positions in Tesla. A financial advisor is not going to make you more money, Martin. That's not going to do anything. So do you think fiat currency is doomed to fail eventually? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that long term. So we still need currency, and the fiat currency needs to be used. Even people who say Bitcoin, if there's a limited supply of Bitcoin, listen, I want everybody to understand also, I like the merits of what Bitcoin was created to do. That's the funny part. People think I'm anti the idea. No, I'm not anti the idea. I love the idea of a deregulated, untouchable by the government, being able to do whatever you want, limited supply. I love that idea. But it doesn't mean it's feasible. Doesn't mean it's going to work. It has worked so far. Guys, it's only worked in the sense the price keeps going up. We still don't see people using Bitcoin. I own 7 or 8 businesses upstairs. I own 1,000 apartments. I've never had anybody say to me, Paul, can I pay you in Bitcoin or any sort of cryptocurrency? And maybe somebody else might sit there and say,
you know what, though? I think unless you're doing things to like hide your transactions.
That's exactly it.
I don't think people actually even want to. We could pull the room right now, and I don't think they want to actually spend.
Let me ask you a question. Would you want to buy a house with Bitcoin where then if the money is sent, it's gone forever, and if they screw you on the house, you have no repercussions? Is that really the world you want to live in? That's the idea they're saying. It's untraceable. Do you want that? You want a world in which money is untraceable? If you want that world, you've never done a business deal. That's impossible. That's not going to work. Because there's no way in hell I'm going to buy a $100 million apartment building and send the money in Bitcoin. You might sit there and say, well, it's sent to a title company. Well, then what? Then what? Okay, we're back to tracing it again.
By the way, I don't even want to do cash.
Yeah, I don't even want to do cash. You're right. I want everything.
I bought a shed this summer. It took them forever to deliver it. And you know what? They said, hey, we'll give you like 20% off if you do cash. Well, Paul, what can I do about it? You know, if they're not, if I have a credit card, I can have recourse.
Yeah. By the way, Rob just said something. Bitcoin is not untraceable. Rob, please explain that, because I was under the impression it was untraceable. So if I'm wrong on that one, that makes my argument even better. My biggest regret was not selling a Papa John's pizza for You guys hear about that? Was it Papa John's or was it Pizza Hut? Yeah, but Mohammed, if all of these currencies are based, like, that's the thing I don't get is like, but it still has to be adopted by a government or by the masses. Maybe it will. I love the idea of it. I just don't see how it's feasible. The government doesn't like competition. That's just the bottom line. And if the government has competition, that competition says you can't trace us, why would the government ever allow that? Okay, yeah. No, that's not true, Shaban. So the argument that selling to the next fool applies to any non-producing asset, yes, you're correct. Sorry, any non-producing asset, you're correct. I agree with you. Yes, I do agree with you. So, Rob, here's my argument about this. I agree with, so the thing they're saying is, if you don't have the private key, then nobody can access it. But here's my question to you. What if you lose your private key? What do you do then? You're effed, because then you can't get your money back. Do you want to live in a world in which you could lose your money that quickly? This is what we're talking about here. Nobody in this world wants to live in a world where they have $10 million and they can lose it tomorrow because they forget a key. The stress I would have would be insane. Insane. Exchange. Oh, by the way, Hans, where's your comment? Finite supply and perceived value is important. Yes, it is important. Can you take me off camera real quick? Because I'm going to pull up my email and I want to show something. Tell me where I'm off, when I'm off. My buddy Matt Jones sent me this today. So hang on a second. He sent this to me. This was funny. Go ahead and put it on. Are you prepared for one of these beauties to ask Jerome Powell about Fartcoin? That was funny. They're hot. She's like a hotter version of Pam on The Office. I don't know. I just look at this. The whole idea, like, guys, I literally love it when I hear people support Bitcoin. I'm like, do you really want a world in which you pay for something and the person can scam you and be gone and be done? No, you don't want to live in that world. Do you want to live in a world where the only access to your money is based on a private key that you have to keep? Come on. No way. No way. You don't want that world. Guys, I'm going to tell you a ridiculous story and you're going to laugh because you're going to be like, what kind of world is... I'll just say this. My dad, when we moved to the U.S., he had a job in like 87 in Columbia, Missouri at a hospital. He started saving a ton in a 401k. Fast forward to 2012. I'm sitting at my desk and I get an email from somebody said, are you Paul, the son of blah, blah, blah? I said, yes. He goes, well, your dad has a 401k sitting with us that has grown quite substantially. Guys, if that was Bitcoin, he'd have lost that money. And when I say substantially, it was substantial. It was multiple six figures that my dad didn't even know about. He totally forgot about it. But because it was traceable, because it sat in somebody's holdings, he got access because it's illegal for them just to keep it. After a certain point, be like, listen, he has his 401k. Do you want to roll it over? I said, yeah, let's bring it into his other 401k. He totally forgot about it. It was multiple six figures because it was back in 1987. My dad was a big saver. So he probably put for 3 years, 20 grand a year into that thing or whatever the number was. And it grew for almost 30 years, 23 years at the stock market skyrocketing. It was tons of money. That doesn't happen with Bitcoin. Do you really want to live in a world in which your money is not traceable? For real? Come on. The world's headed towards a future where you could live on the blockchain. That'd be great. That'd be great. And by the way, I agree with that. I agree with it that we're basically living in a digital world already with payments. Yesterday, I got my tires changed here at the office. Somebody came, they changed my tires out. I want to tip the guy. Who'd I go to? Hey, Andrew, you got cash? Because I know Andrew always has cash on him. I never carry cash, ever. So if you ever see me in public, you want to hold me up, ask for my Bitcoin private key because I don't have cash on me. I have no cash on me. It's amazing. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, cash is, useless. Yeah, I agree with you, JJ. I agree with you. By the way, I love the fact that Bitcoin is instant. I love that. That's great. But is it okay for it to take a little bit longer for security? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Listen, years ago, we were doing a lot of business in China. We were importing stuff. And I emailed my bank and I said, guys, please wire $14,200 or something like that to this furniture company. This is the same furniture company that you did the last wire you did. Well, they sent me the wire form. They said, Paul, please sign this, verify it's all right. I did not verify it was all right because I said, send it to the last people we sent it to. Well, they put the wrong place in there. And the bank said to me, well, Paul, you kind of approved it. I was like, guys, you have it on recording and you have it in an email that I said this and that was not the last one. Yes, I approved it. Bottom line is we got the money back. You know how? We sucked the money back because we sent the wire, realized it was wrong, and we pulled the money back. That can't happen with Bitcoin. I'm okay for a longer transaction time because in that time, the hour or two it took for the money to go out, we realized it was a mistake and yanked it back. Now, we got lucky because they always say like it only works like 20% of the time. Great. And by the way, the vendor was somebody that I do a lot of business with, so I probably would have gotten the money or credit for other furnishings that we'd have bought anyhow. I wouldn't have been out the money. But the point is, if that was Bitcoin, And it was somebody come on, that wouldn't have happened. By the way, Cole, you're right. Personal responsibility, but at the end of the day, though, personal responsibility is great, but we're also personally responsible for a lot of things. We can't have our focus on, and with money, that's just too much one to lose. Your entire family's future based on like you trusting yourself on these things. I don't know. That's hard. Is my dad Bill Gates? Yeah, you're right. 100% Dalton. By the way, when I read this, bubbles aren't just about a price. What price does, it's about psychology behind it. I was like, that's a brilliant comment. Who said that? Of course, it's Dalton. Of course. No one buys things with crypto. Not all crypto are pyramid schemes. Some are just frauds. Paul, is the Fed competent and do they have inflation under control? Hans, good question. I don't know. I like what the Fed's been doing. Now I think they're going to start playing the political game, but I think they tackled inflation the right way. I think it's evidence in the fact that inflation went from 10% down to like 3% pretty quickly. Did we have a soft landing? I think we had our first ever soft landing. Like literally, I think it was our first ever soft landing. Hans is asking for a yes or no question and a very loaded question. Is your dad Bill Gates? That's funny. I like that. That was funny. And by this thing, Patrick, this is exactly it. This is easy money. Guys, look at every historical market top and bubble. And yes, I've been saying that for quite a while now. It has been the longest and the most absurd bubble we've had ever. But it makes sense based on how easy to access the information in the world. Like 25 years ago, when I wanted to check stock price, I had to go to the newspaper. And it was only on Thursdays because the internet wasn't that good about posting. And we had dial-up internet, so it wasn't easy to get on the internet. We're all spoiled by this. I wouldn't mind speculating with crypto. Okay, speculate all you want. That's great. Yazid, I agree with you. Is it going to be devalued? Yes, but I don't think the dollar is going anywhere. Oh my God. Dalton. Oh, Dalton's the best. Let me tell you about shale oil and gas. So Dalton works for us, and Dalton's always trying to pitch me companies that have this shale oil and gas stuff. And he goes in this rant, and I'm like, Dalton, I could not care less. Now, here's the funny part. Proof. Dalton's a brilliant investor. Talk about performance. This guy has outperformed every single person in this chat by a long shot in investing. The guy's brilliant. And guess what? I don't invest the way he does because it doesn't make sense to me, and he doesn't invest the way I do because he realizes he can make more money. Great. So for everybody, I look at it going, okay, but guess what? I also have absurdly more money than Dalton. He's trying to get himself into absurd money status. I am not. I don't need to risk, and that's the mistake I made in shorting NVIDIA in the market. I tried to risk money I had to get something I didn't need. That was stupid. Lesson learned. Guess what? My net worth at the end of the day this year is down 5% because of that. Okay. I thought at first it was 10%. I was just wrong on my net worth. My brother the other day gave me a nice little surprise. I was like, oh, cool. I'm worth that much. He's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. So to the people who hate on me, they have to remember that I haven't had a down year in net worth in, I want to say 20 years. It's pretty fucking good. Yeah, my stock picks, and by the way, my stock picks have been fire lately.
And this is the equivalent to majority of America taking $500 to the casino in Vegas and losing it.
Yeah, that's what I think. Holy cow. I went 80% in Meta near the lows. God, that's awesome, Jake. Make Dalton the host. Dalton's like super anal and research. I mean, like I've never seen it. He loves it. Dalton's great. And guess what? I'm sure at some point in the next few years, I'm going to give Dalton the check and say, Dalton, manage this money for me, and we'll do a split. We've talked about it already because I trust his process, and I have no desire to invest his way, but it's a way for me to give him compensation while I'm also making money. I'm cool because I don't look at things, but I trust his process. I'm trying to get you guys to the point where you find a process that you trust. And principle-driven investing, in my opinion, is a process we trust. It might not, you might approach it a different way, more power to you. But we also can't look at this and say this is a car. Paul, you don't get it, it's a car. No, it's a phone. That's the end of the day, it's a phone. You cannot tell me these things, you know what I mean? I just look at it going, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that stuff. We need Dalton Weekly. Yes, you do. Oh, CM. So this is my comment. I say to everybody, I appreciate you saying that. Every company Paul likes, I buy a fractional share and they've all done good. They haven't all done good. It depends where you buy them. But the other thing is, don't copy me. I mean, I appreciate doing like a small amount, but I'm trying to teach that process. And guess what? You know why they've all done well? Because the market has done this. You know what I want to see? When the market's done this for a long time, have I done this? That's what I want to see. But it could go like this. The market could go like this, and my money could go like this. Completely, I don't know. All I know is I buy companies that I think are going to be around for a long period of time that are growing revenue and profit, and I can pay a reasonable price for them. At the end of the day, that's what I care about. And I do it. And before COVID, it worked out really well for me over a long period of time. Since COVID, I haven't been in the market, and I shorted the market. Terrible. Okay. I'm not going to discount 16, 17 years of great performance because of 3 or 4 years of a huge bubble okay, fine. If you're that fickle, that bothers you. But again, nobody here really knows me before COVID. We started this channel during COVID. So I get it. But I also look at our process and I'm like, yeah, our process is fun. It's great. I do not short anything anymore, Mohammed. I'm done. Hans, thank you. Yeah, crypto is a fucking scam. It's a great HBO quote. Don't take a video on an airplane and tell me it's a drone. That's funny. Has taken up credits in order to buy crypto. Wow. See, I agree with you. I feel like I buy companies that are, my thesis on buying companies are three questions I ask. One, so apply it to Bitcoin. One, do I believe this will be around for the foreseeable future? I don't know about Bitcoin. Like, if you were told me, put a gun in my head and said, Paul, 30 years from now, does Bitcoin exist? I really have no effing clue. But you tell me Target, I'd be like, probably more than likely it's going to be. 30 different companies like Target, yeah, they're going to be around. Two, do I think in the next 30 or 40 years that those companies will generate more revenue and profit than they do today? The answer for me on a lot of them, other companies I own today, is yes. With crypto, it makes no money. It makes zero money. It doesn't mean you can't make money trading it, but you don't need a fundamentally intrinsic value. Look at Beanie Babies. Beanie Babies surged in price 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And the third question I ask, can I pay a reasonable price to pay? Can I pay a reasonable price today that considers that future and gives me an adequate return on my capital? And that adequate return is very personal. Could be 15% for you. Could be 10% for you. Could be 12%. I don't know what that is. That's the big key. And also, it also factors in, what's that future look like? 3 years ago, nobody saw this future for NVIDIA. If you'd asked 100 people who are NVIDIA shareholders, do you think NVIDIA is going to triple its revenue and then quadruple its revenue in the next 3 years? But apart from them just saying it like, yeah, like hypesters, nobody would have said yes. They did it. That's the whole idea of sticking with companies for a long period of time. I don't know what Dalton's returns are for the past 5 years. All I know is that in the last year and a half, he's probably up 150%. I don't know if I should be saying that. But he's up a ton. By the way, Brad, it's interesting you say that. Chick-fil-A should be public. I like the fact that Chick-fil-A is not public. It allows them to grow the way they need to grow. It allows them to avoid the hype and the market fluctuations. I think people over-exaggerate how important it is to go public. I remember once meeting a guy like in 2010 saying, Paul, what you got to do is you got to take a company public. And I'm like, oh, and I believed him. And now I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do. I have no desire to take a company public. Doesn't mean I won't. It just means there has to be a really good reason to take it public. What do you think about Nissan's potential merger with Honda? I think 2 great car companies, 2 Japanese car companies. I don't know what the reasons are for them to do that, but I think they're both phenomenal cars, so more power to them. Will AutoZone sell batteries? I imagine so. I haven't looked at Tidewater in a while, CM. Or from Doge, yeah. Oh, man. Aljaz, I don't know what the best performer was in my lifetime. Shoot. Because I wasn't the investor I am today. I would buy companies and sell them. So I never had like a 10-bagger. But so I don't know what the best return was in my lifetime. And the fact that it doesn't stick out, like even now, if you told me what's my stock that's up the most on, I wouldn't know. Oh no, it's Sprouts. That's because, by the way, the only reason I know Sprouts is because it's been up obscene amounts. It's like literally just flying. I'm like, and that's the only reason why. Oh, thanks very much, David. I appreciate that. Yeah, maybe so, Cascani. I don't know about that. So I think you're right, Miro. Like, go make money off the people. Go make money off the people who support the crypto business. CVS, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I remember 46 being a pretty interesting price. How does shares outstanding affect you? Well, Brad, if the shares outstanding keep going up, you're getting diluted. No matter how many shares you own, you're getting diluted. That's a big thing. Mr. Victor, you might be right. We've talked about that. We've had a Bitcoiner on the show. We interviewed him and we talked about it. And I remember leaving that interview going, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't understand investing. When you have somebody saying this is not an investment and somebody else saying this is an investment, how do you make that debate happen? Because it's like saying, how do I convince somebody this is not a car? If they're absolutely convinced it's a car, not to pick on somebody in our community, but when people were telling me Tesla's not a car company, I go, when 90% of its revenues come from cars, it's a fucking car company. I can't have that argument. It's like telling me this is a car. This is not a car. It's a phone. Well, my car can make phone calls. I'm like, okay, I can control my car from this phone. Okay, great. It's still not a car. I don't know how to have that argument. If I met somebody who was born in 1940, prove to me you didn't kill Kennedy. How do they prove that? They got to go out there and say, well, I wasn't in Dallas in 1960. It's a circular argument. What I'm trying to do here is sit there and say, guys, here's why I think Bitcoin is not an investment. And based on what I hear people say about Bitcoin, it's further evidence that it's not an investment. It's a highly speculative asset, fine, but it's a store of value. What is a store of value? Sam, it was an interesting interview because what I basically say is the same thing I always say to people. Another thing about asset versus speculation. If your argument for an asset, if you give me the long list of arguments for why something's worth the price, if you add 2 zeros and the arguments are all still correct, or you take 2 zeros away, they're all still correct, it's not an investment. But when you start bringing in multiples, and there's no multiples for Bitcoin. Unless somebody says, you know what they started doing now? Well, gold is this big, and if Bitcoin's 20% of that, it's like, that doesn't work. Okay, great. I'm gonna take a shit on this phone, smear it in my shit, and hey, if this is just 1% of the size of a gold, then it's gonna be worth a ton of money. Well, yeah, but is that really reasonable? I don't know. We're never gonna have an everything money ETF. Ever. But Rob, it's still a car company today. It might be something different in the future. It has that potential, but it's still a car company today. Okay, great. So if McDonald's all of a sudden starts spending billions of dollars on Krispy Kreme, are they a donut company now? No, because still the majority of its revenue comes from software. It's still a software business.
Dalton and I was talking about this yesterday.
What were you talking about?
So actually, people in the chat, how would you define Pepsi?
I mean, it's a soft drink company, but they own freaking
They're the second largest snack company in the U.S.
They have Taco Bell too. Don't they own Taco Bell?
They did spin that off
to Yum Brands,
but they still have like Lay's, and like when we did that 52-week low video, like Mo was showing all the snack brands, and it's crazy, but people would label them a beverage company.
Yeah. What's next comment? I used to think Tesla was a car company. I still do. Is Dunkin' just a donut company? Great question, Rob. I don't know. A can company. First Amendment said Pepsi's a can company. They make cans. They're a can company. That's true. Pepsi's a human capital company. Listen, I think the issue we have to get ourselves around here, and I'm really trying to speak to, I'm really trying to keep, this is going to sound completely arrogant. When this crypto bubble bursts and crypto people have to walk back with their head between their legs and go, F, there's a better way. I fell for the same stuff 25. If I was 18 right now, I'd have fallen for crypto, 100%. I absolutely would have fallen for crypto. If I had no understanding of cash flows and intrinsic value and fundamentals, I would have fallen for crypto. 100%. It's amazing to me that the people who are the best investors ever, who understand intrinsic value, they're the ones not falling for crypto. Are they just dumb? Maybe. Suddenly, all of a sudden, they're all dumb. The best investors of all time are suddenly all dumb? Maybe. No, Rob, I can get that. I get that. But they're also dedicated to a specific product. They're that company. They're that company. You're right, but they're the company of the product they're trying to develop. And if they spend 90% of their money trying to develop software, and 95% of their money and 5% trying to develop donuts, are they a donut company? Even if the potential for donuts is bigger than the software potential, are they a donut company? Maybe. If you perceive it that way, more power to you. But you can't just look at what its potential market size is also. It's also the chance of it becoming that. And you've also seen with FSD that the revenue potential on FSD has plummeted. McDonald's, you could say that. You could say it is a real estate company. No, I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to 1 million. I think it's going to 1 billion each coin. That's fine. And Lizzie is in the hospital, by the way. Sorry to do that, guys. My dog, we had to take her to the hospital yesterday because of one of my dogs. I really feel like Rob is yelling right now. By the way, you're right, Rob. They are developing little robot humans. I get that. And when they really monetize it to a point where it's generating big revenue, I will sit there and say they're not only a car company anymore. They're also this. They're developing a lot of things. Guess what? Google's developing a lot of things. Is Google a thermostat company because they have Nest? No, they're not a thermostat company. They're not. It's still a search company, ad company.
A lot of people.
By the way, is Google a search company or an ad company? Perfect example.
They're an ad company.
They're an ad, right? Because how is it?
That's it.
Yes.
They're an advertising place. Same thing with Meta. Same thing. That's how I view it. Not social media, Meta. They're ad. But Paul, how would you define? Okay, because a lot of people just blanked on.
I love Rob, by the way. But Rob, I apologize if I've made you mad. It's not my intention at all. Go ahead. How would I define what?
How would you define Amazon? Would you say they're an AWS company?
Oh, guess what? You should. Why? Because their profits all driven by AWS. But they're not. Their revenue, like this is the hard part. But by the way, it's so obvious in that regard that we can say it. You know, it's kind of like the tech world. When I was involved in a startup, Dynasty Owner, we always used to joke that the second you start making revenue and profit, you can't sell the dream anymore. Tesla's still selling the dream on a lot of things that they're doing. Oh, we're robo-taxis, we're human robots, we're all these things. But you're not that yet. You could be, but you're not that yet. Guys, do you know what I say about Crossroads Group? I say it's a holding company with many businesses, mostly driven by real estate now. Guess what I think the largest part of Crossroads would be? You're looking at it. I think Everything Money has the potential of being the largest part of Crossroads. And guess what? Do I ever say it's a YouTube? By the way, what would you say Everything Money is? 90% of our revenue comes from subscriptions to our software. Are we a software business? Are we a community business? These are the hard things. And the reason I bring this up is during bubbles, the justifications for all these other things are what occurs. It's always a justification. Just like when we have a down market and things look bleak, people will say, it's never going to change because even though this is looking good, it's still bad. This will happen on the other extreme. And I want you guys to be able to remember that I said this. Human behavior will never, ever change. We all want to do things fast. It's incredible. You did videos. I never did videos in 2018. We were not doing videos in 2018.
Early initial podcast
was October or September of 2018.
Yeah, exactly. And
maybe it was a video back then, but we weren't doing videos like this in 2018, Rob.
No, not until 2020.
Well, this was JJ. This was a Bitcoin debate. You're right. And is it possible it changes? Yeah, it's possible it changes, but I don't think it's going to change, because at the end of the day, I don't think currency is suddenly an investment. And fiat currency, I don't think gold's an investment. And gold's been around for thousands and thousands of years with proven value. But guess what? I buy gold miners because they take something and make money with it. They take oil. I don't think oil is an investment, but I believe in oil companies. All these things, like, you got to remember, guys, every single product that's made is made on something that's not an investment. But it doesn't mean they can't convert it into a product that makes the company itself an investment. There's a very distinct difference there. I want everybody to realize that. Rubber, to me, buying rubber is not an investment. Doesn't mean that there are companies out there that can make money using rubber, and those companies become investments. Cryptocurrency defenses, what was that? Maybe, Rob. Maybe everything, everything about Tesla was wrong. Yeah, maybe. At least the price was wrong. My valuation of it was wrong. Yeah. I don't know about everything I said about Tesla was wrong, but maybe so. I mean, MicroStrategy is using leverage. MicroStrategy is using leverage to buy Bitcoin. That's literally at peaks of euphoria is when people start using leverage to buy assets. Everything here screams bubble. But it can go longer than I can be solvent, as they say. Paul, you believe in oil companies? I'd like to set up a... Dalton's the best. No, but that's the thing. Somebody out there probably understands commodities in a way that... But even then, it's not an investment to me, because I look at it going, if you took away that market, how would you make money off that? How would you make money off that? It's not going to produce something for you. It's going to sit there. And that's fine. And it's great to speculate. And I'm sure there's better speculations than Bitcoin out there. For example, the difference between gold and silver relative to something else, whatever it is. I'm sure there's ways to look at certain speculative assets and figure out a way of being smarter about it. I've always said, if you want to invest in these, look at like secular lows and highs on these commodities relative to some sort of metric that makes sense. But it's still a speculation, because that asset itself is not going to produce anything for you. You have to get your value only by the asset going up in price. And for those of you who say that about stock, that's not true. Then you got to remember, every stock, when you buy a stock, you're buying a piece of a business. And that business is going to generate revenue, cash flow, and have a balance sheet. And over time, if the market to be able to sell those shares goes away, you're still going to have a business that you're going to own a piece of that's going to increase its revenue, profit, and cash flow and balance sheet. Just like you do with your neighbor's garage that you sit there and own a mechanic shop with them. No different. No different. Yeah, Miro, I agree with you. People disagree with me on that, but where's the utility in it? Oh, Brad, it doesn't bother me. The negative comments, listen, I have 290,000 subscribers. I mean, the only thing I'll say is I don't deal with trolls. If somebody's just being like inaccurate, and rude, I don't deal with that. If somebody just says, Paul, I disagree with you and here's why, oh, great, that's awesome. Look at Tesla Rob. We have the name for him. His name is Tesla Rob. Rob and I disagree completely. You saw what he said. He's like, everything you said about Tesla is wrong from 2000. I'm like, okay, maybe. I don't hate the guy. I get what he's coming from, and I get his belief in Tesla. Do I think I don't think he's factoring in the fundamentals? Yeah, but his argument is, Paul, you were wrong 5 years, 6 years ago. Okay, fair enough. And I said that. I'm like, yeah, I was wrong on Tesla back in 2012, 2014, 13, whatever. Okay. It became a more valuable business than I ever expected to be. And guess what? We're also forgetting the 80 businesses that I said, these are junk, that all went to zero or fell 90%. Yes, I missed out on Tesla going up a ton. But I also didn't miss out on a ton of companies going to zero that I said, these have to perform way above possible to be able to do that. Yeah, I saw that, Mohammed. That Michael Saylor. Soybean investments. No, but just because it has an ETF doesn't make it an investment. Okay, great. If I make an ETF based on Beanie Babies, does that make Beanie Babies an investment? Come on. No. Rob and Paul are both wrong. Probably. The good news literally doesn't matter if Paul's right on. Yeah, and you know what? So the hard part about being a YouTube channel is I do have to take positions on things I don't agree with, even if I don't invest in them. By the way, you want to talk about stubborn? Everybody criticizes me for shorting the market and shorting NVIDIA. I bet by the end of this bear market, my NVIDIA short would end up being positive. And guess what? I exited though, so it made me wrong. I get it. I might be early, but I'm not wrong. And people say there's no difference. I think there is a difference. Go ahead.
Do you think you would have continued doing it if it wasn't for Mikey feeling so uncomfortable with it? Which, by the way, you've transitioned. You're not going to do anymore.
Yeah. Good question. Probably held out longer, but I probably would have had a point where I'm just like, yeah, this isn't worth it. Listen, it's hard because I have real estate. I have businesses. So my net worth is still going up, so it doesn't affect me as much. Do you follow what I'm saying? Yeah, you're right, Sam. Rob, you're funny. Now they all get it. So, Rob, I want you to, next time you're at the dinner, I want you to be like, hey, this idiot Paul still doesn't get it. Thank God you guys get it. Yeah, you're right. A stock going up or down has no correlation between what the company is. I mean, in the short run. I'd change this to in short run. And look at Tesla. In the long run, Tesla was right. Rob was right on Tesla back in 2014. Doesn't mean that Rob is right on Tesla in 2022, 21, 23, 24. Doesn't mean the same thing. But he was right on it back in 2012, 13, 14. We got 4 minutes, guys. Oh, Bill Gates. No, you didn't do it. You didn't do it, Bill. You didn't do it, Rob. He's trolling me on Bill Gates. Is it really, Brad? Yeah, Sam, great comment here. You're right. That's why it's so important that one of our principle-driven investing ideas is if you don't get it, you don't buy it. And when I say I don't get Bitcoin, what I mean is I don't get how it goes up or down in value besides the greater fool theory. The technology behind Bitcoin is not complicated, guys. So whenever people say like, "Oh, I get it," like, great, you get how to build a phone. That doesn't mean this phone is worth infinite amount. Come on, give me a break. I always tell people, great, a mechanic knows the inner workings of a car. Does that make them a great car salesman? Should they make a car company? No, it's still about generating and owning a business and running a business. I always tell people one of the worst things you can do is promote a salesperson because they're a good salesperson and think they're going to manage people. Being a sales manager isn't the same as being a good salesperson. That becomes a management job, not a sales job. Totally different things. Same thing here. Listen, I love Musk. Yeah, you're right, JJ. You can make money on speculation, 100%. Guys, I'm not going to say who it is, but a good friend of mine, a bad month for him, day trading is 4 or 5% a month. A month. Do you think he's investing? He doesn't think he's investing. I don't think he's investing. He's day trading. Does that mean I'm opposed to it? No. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can start a fund with him where he manages a portion of my money for me. Because he literally has been doing it for 15 months, and his worst month has been like 4%. That's not investing. Doesn't mean I don't believe in it. You've got to remember that. I don't believe buying a home is an investment in the sense that the great thing about buying a home is you need to own. I don't believe buying a second home is an investment. I should say that. Buying a second home doesn't necessarily make it an investment. I still have one. Well, no, because I made it an investment. Forget that. But buying a second home is an investment. You're going to pay all these mortgage costs and taxes and all this stuff to watch the house go up in value by a few percentage points a year. Come on, give me a break. That's right, value seeker. Oh my God, that's so awesome. Starlink is the best thing ever. I can't wait till it's everywhere. I heard something the other day, Rob, that there are 10,000 satellites in space and 4,300 are Starlink. Isn't that incredible? 10,000 satellites are orbiting the Earth and 4,300 are Starlink.
It's really good too, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Our church has one.
My brother has it.
Oh, Mikey has
Mikey
one?
has it at his house.
It melts snow off of it. It has like an internal thing that melts snow. It's amazing.
Okay, guys, we got 1 minute. JJ, who knows? Yeah, great. I get a ton of FOMO with big. I know. I don't blame you, Brad. Trust me. Don't think for a second I don't get FOMO either. My FOMO is different. My FOMO is, damn, I should have shorted NVIDIA. I should have shorted the market. Because nobody remembers the 25 stocks, now 26 stocks that I own that are up a ton. Nobody remembers those. That's the only part of it where I go, guys, come on. I don't mind being criticized, but if you criticize me for this, you got to give me credit for this. Now, granted, our true followers know that the process works and they like it and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, that's FOMO in essence. If I go back in time right now to 2010, I'd say, Paul, go put $1 million in Bitcoin. Absolutely, I would. Of course I would. Just because I don't believe in it, but if I knew the price was going to be up, I'd be like, okay, fine, I'm going to go do that. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for this time. I did set up selling the Cybertruck, Brad. I did sell the Cybertruck. I appreciate it. And if you want to troll me even further, join our community, $7 for 7 days, $1 per day, everythingmoney.com/sign up. You get all the tools, everything, your grandfathered in for life, and you're locked in your pricing tier forever. Not your price, your tier forever. Go sign up. Thank you for your time.